Olivia was certain the Marquess wouldn't even spare her a passing glance at this particular moment in time. With her skirts and petticoats rucked up about her knees, her silk stockings torn and smeared with something mucky and green, moss perhaps, she looked an absolute fright. Not only that, but what she was doing certainly bordered on trespassing. If Lord Sleat did see her, he'd be well within his rights to summon the Bow Street runners. But what could she do? She absolutely had to rescue her dear friend's beloved pet. If Peridot fell or escaped into the mews... Visions of the cat darting between carriages and horses' hooves, or being stalked by a lascivious tomcat, filled Olivia's mind's eye, and her whole body trembled like the dark green leaves above her head. Despite Olivia's edict to the servants that Peridot should not be let out unless accompanied, the cat had somehow slipped into the garden on her own. When Olivia looked up from the pages of Northanger Abbey, she'd been reading in her bedchamber after dinner, and spied Peridot leaping from the wall into the tree, her heart had taken flight like a panicked bird. And now here she was, her heart fluttering wildly, her belly tumbling with fear, and her head spinning with dizziness whenever she looked down. How inconvenient that she'd belatedly discovered she was terrified of heights. Olivia huffed out a breath to blow a stray lock of hair away from her face. She daren't let go of the brick wall lest she fall. She'd already lost one of her shoes. In the process of clambering onto her precarious perch, her pink silk slipper slid off her foot and landed in a dense, rather prickly-looking bank of rose bushes, guarding the perimeter of Lord Sleat's garden. On her side of the wall, the stone bench she'd climbed upon looked far away indeed, and part of the ivy-choked lattice-work she'd used as a makeshift ladder had already cracked ominously beneath her weight. But she really couldn't afford to panic about how she'd get down. First of all, she had to reach that blasted cat, and quickly. The light was fading fast, and it wouldn't be long before her presence was missed. Olivia drew a bracing breath. Peridot? Her stammer was little more than a ragged whisper. Here, puss. There's a good kitty now. Knees trembling, heart pounding, she forced herself to inch forward along the wall so she could peer up into the beech canopy. There, directly above her on a sturdy branch, but just out of reach, sat Peridot, her black, white and tan fur barely visible in the shadows. The cat's fluffy tail twitched when Olivia called her again. A disdainful gesture if she'd ever seen one. Little minx. If Olivia survived this foolhardy escapade, she was going to pack Peridot into her basket and send her back to Berkeley Square post-haste. Let the Hastings House staff deal with their young mistress's cat. Charlie meant well when she'd suggested in her last letter that Olivia might like to look after Peridot for a few weeks until Charlie returned to London in the first week of October. On the surface, her friend's reasoning was sound. A pet would provide Olivia with congenial company, affection, and a source of amusement. 3 things that were sorely lacking in her life. Ignoring the scrape of brickwork along the tender flesh of her inner thighs, Olivia crept forward again, and then the hem of her muslin gown snagged on something, and she winced at the sound of fabric tearing. Damn, and double damn again. How on earth was she going to explain the damage to Bagshaw? She'd be sure to tattle to Aunt Edith, who'd tell Uncle Reginald. And then she'd be punished. But at least Peridot will be safe. The low, unmistakable sound of an adult male clearing his throat made Olivia simultaneously jump and squeak with fright. Oh, no. No.